Anne-Marie. So today you're going to tell us a little bit about your journey with Vipassana meditation and how you came to be connected with Vipassana in the first place at the retreat and how it's a part of your everyday wellness routine.
Mhm. Thanks for the question, Shannon. I love to talk about my experience with Vipassana. I love to speak about the Vipassana technique in general. So, uh, while I'll be talking about my experience of the 10-day retreat. Vipassana, a lot of people know, involves participating in a silent 10-day retreat. But in addition to that, Vipassana is not just a kind of boot camp that finishes there. There's a lot involved for participants to continue following up with the Vipassana meditation technique that you learn at the retreat. And there's further opportunities to get involved once you complete a 10-day retreat. So, yeah, I'd like to start, I guess, at the kind of question that always comes up, like what kind of inspired me to do Vipassana meditation? What inspired me to go on a 10-day silent retreat? Because I know a lot of people who, once you mention the fact that you've gone on a 10-day silent meditation retreat, they think it's absolutely mad. Um, and yeah, that's kind of a normal reaction in our everyday world. What would make somebody want to go away for 10 days in absolute silence, talking to nobody, having a very rigid schedule involving a lot of meditation, and only eating at certain times? And yeah. um, so basically, for me, it's kind of one of these kind of synchronicity stories. I basically had a friend when I lived in Vietnam. I lived in Vietnam for 1 year. And she was the first person that spoke to me about Vipassana. And she didn't tell me much, but she just told me that, like, I did this 10-day meditation retreat. I've done it a few times, and I found it so powerful. And it's just amazing. And she brought it up a few times, about her experience, but I didn't know much about what was actually involved. Again, there was like just things in my head, like, okay, going into silence for 10 days, meditating. I didn't know much about it, but she said a few times, like, you should try it. And I remember I kind of, yeah, so this was kind of a synchronicity moment. We were one day talking about Vipassana, and you, she brought it up. She's like, that Vipassana, that 10-day Vipassana, you absolutely have to do it. It's so good. And we were walking, and we were walking to a restaurant, and we get to this restaurant. Again, this is in Vietnam, where we were both living at the time. And there was two guys in like, it was a very small restaurant. You sit on the floor, vegetarian place. And there were these two Russian guys there. And they were kind of funny. They were kind of an interesting characters, I would say. And one of the guys, we were like asking each other, like, where are you from, and so on and so forth. And the guy said to me, like, where are you from? And I was like, oh, I'm from Ireland. And he was like, oh, Ireland, really? Like, and he said, I've only ever met like one other Irish person before. He was a bus driver for Dublin Bus. And I was like, oh, okay, where did you meet him? And he was like, I met him at a 10-day Vipassana retreat in northern Thailand. And, me and my friend just laughed. It was just such a funny kind of synchronistic uh, thing for him to say after her talking about it to me for so long. And that wasn't the only time. Like, it was after that, after she had kind of planted the seed in my head, I considered doing it a few times. I applied on the website. They have a website that you can apply on. But it's kind of like, well, there's kind of like no commitment. If you want to pull out closer to the time, you can. Of course, it's, and I think there were a few times that I actually did that. I planned to go, but then I decided against it. Or I was unable to. But yeah, there were a few other people I met who brought up Vipassana, and they always they always had a good experience with it. So I was kind of taking this as a little bit of a sign, perhaps from the universe. Um, and yeah, it just really intrigued me, I guess, to hear all of these positive experiences from people. So I finally, I was living in back in Ireland for a few years, and I finally kind of found a perfect time slot that would be good for me to do Vipassana. So it was over the Christmas holiday period. I think it was around 6 years ago. And again, I didn't know much about the actual technique. I just knew that this was something that a lot of people had profound experiences doing. Um, so, I signed up for the retreat. I had the time to do it. And I think it was, the day after Christmas, the 26th of December, that I went. And, I went to the Vipassana Center in a location in Ireland. And yeah, so I found out, of course, very quickly what was involved. And it was basically a very strict schedule. I believe that it involves meditating for a total of 10 hours a day, which, as as you're aware, that sounds like a lot of meditation in a day. You get up very early. I think they ring a bell at, I don't know, again, maybe 4 a.m. You meditate for 2 hours, you have breakfast, you meditate for another few hours, there's a break. The only things you can do on the break is going for, like, all you can do is walk. You can't bring books. You can't do any like yoga. You cannot speak to people. You're engaged in noble silence. And that also, when I say not speak to people, that also means, you don't, uh, you know, miming or waving or something is also part of noble silence. And the idea is that you are there, like, it's your personal journey. So you're just doing this on your own. It also helps you to concentrate much better when you do the actual meditation. There's a lot of reasons that they have this kind of noble silence in place. It's not just go be silent for like no reason. There is structure for a reason. Um, so that was kind of, so yeah, the daily schedule was very intense. To talk about my personal experience, you are supposed to meditate for a period of, again, I think it's 10 hours, like throughout the whole day. There are You sit in a hall and you learn the technique of Vipassana. You learn the meditation techniques. There's basically two meditation techniques. One is focused on breathing, called Anapana. The other is focused on the other is Vipassana, the main meditation technique. Um, so basically, yeah, you're supposed to go to all of the sittings, but you can also meditate in your room, for some of them. For some, you have to go to the hall. There are assistant teachers there, and there's some kind of compulsory sittings with the assistant teachers and with everyone who's attending the course. But for a lot of the meditation sessions, you can actually go to your room. So I'm going to be honest that I didn't go to every session, like I wasn't meditating for 10 hours a day. Sometimes I was lying in my bed under the pretense of meditating. And I found the course very intense. I found it very difficult, to be totally honest about it. Um, so yeah, I found it quite a challenge to attend all of the sessions. And there were many challenges. It's funny because I remember one of the things that I was most worried about on this retreat was, I am a bit of a snacker. I love to snack on chocolate like all day. I love to sit there eating green tea or drinking green tea and eating chocolate. So I was actually most worried about, Yeah, not about having this kind of strict breakfast time and lunchtime, and then your dinner time. At dinner, you're only allowed like two pieces of fruit as well, right? So for me, I'm not someone that engages in intermittent fasting, but I really love to have my snacks. So that was something that I was really worried about. But it was funny because in that kind of structured environment, I that actually wasn't a problem at all. So the main challenge for me was really just Vipassana itself, learning the technique, going there and committing to the full number of days. There were many times that in my mind I was saying, okay, I want to leave. And it happens to a lot of people that attend these retreats. It's quite difficult to stay. People do end up leaving. Um, but I knew that this technique was serving me. I knew that the practice of it was serving me. And that's why I persevered to the end. Um, and I managed to stick out the full retreat. Um, so kind of to go on from that, and I hope I kind of gave a good overview, because when I did the 10-day course, that was actually like 6 years ago. So I feel like I'm probably a bit better able to talk about my experience of Vipassana as kind of part of a daily practice and as part of what I've been engaged in since with Vipassana. Um, so basically, the actual technique of Vipassana, which involves kind of sitting still in one position, your back up straight, and observing sensations in your body. Again, I'm not one to teach it. If you want to learn it, I definitely recommend going to one of these courses. But it basically involves observing sensations in your body. And you start to, observe sensations, and you feel, as you're sitting down, if you've tried meditation, you probably know that after like maybe even 5 minutes, you're like, oh, I want to move. I'm not feeling very comfortable. So with Vipassana, we try not to move. We try to just stay completely still. And then different people will get different pains or different sensations in different parts of their body. But basically, when I feel a pain in my leg and I'm sitting there, I try to just observe that pain and let it pass. And it's it sounds kind of simple, but it's really amazing what practicing does to you, and how practicing this technique actually helps you become less reactive in your own life. It's really I find it really hard to explain. I have to say that since I completed my Vipassana 10-day course some years ago, I haven't been practicing Vipassana. They actually recommend you practice for 2 hours every day, one hour in the morning, an hour in the evening, every day after you do a Vipassana course. Because again, they say this is not a boot camp. You're here to learn. You're here to learn a technique. If this technique serves you, we strongly recommend that you practice it on a daily basis, 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening. And some people do stick to that. Um, I have managed to stick to it at different periods in my life. And when I have, it served me extremely well. I find that like I will sit there and I will come out of my practice and I will be so equanimous, as the word is, just kind of less reactive, letting kind of things pass through me as opposed to kind of always reacting. And I feel that it's a really fantastic practice in that sense. Um, once you do a 10-day course, and again, that's what I want to kind of mention because I don't know if a lot of people know much about it. So once you do a 10-day course, there is kind of, you are able then to go and do shorter courses. So I have completed 2 3-day courses as a kind of refresher. I did one a few months ago here in Hungary where I live, and it was really challenging. Even 10 days is challenging, even 3 days is challenging. But yeah, for me in that last course, again, I did my best to commit to the practice and going to as many sessions as I could. Um, but I also loved the fact that I was there in silence. I had no phone to turn to. I got the opportunity to just detox completely from this crazy world that we live in. And it was a really beautiful experience, the last course. I haven't been practicing recently, and it's something that has kind of been on my to-do list. But interestingly enough, again, because there are people that engaged in this practice, there's also quite a bit of a community in cities and countries throughout the world, which is great. So there's actually a place, for example, very near where I live, luckily, where they do kind of grouply sits. So weekly group sits. Grouply is not a word. And I went there yesterday, actually, and I went there for 2 hours. And it was. I have practiced on my own quite a bit. But there was something very beautiful about sitting there with a small group of people, just sitting there in silence with a small group of people. And you probably get that from any type of meditation. I am not really actively engaged in any other type of meditation, but there's something just very nice about the energy. And again, it's also, like I was saying, I've kind of face challenges keeping to doing Vipassana regularly at different periods. So it's nice that there are those options where you can go and you can kind of maybe be a bit more motivated because that it's going to be in a group setting. Regarding whether or not I would recommend Vipassana to people, I think the answer is yes. I think it could be beneficial to everybody. But again, of course, there's just no one way to. I don't know if using the term enlightenment is too big here, but I think it's very helpful. I think it's worth trying it if you think you might be interested. Um, I don't really have any kind of tips or advice for anyone who would be interested in going to a Vipassana retreat. I think it's not the kind of, I think there's no way you can really prepare. Like it is very difficult. Sometimes people say to me, like, Anne Marie, like, how do you meditate for an hour? Like, I'm so bad at meditation. Before I did the Vipassana retreat, I couldn't meditate for 5 minutes either. And when I'm meditating, like I'm not sitting, like my mind isn't completely like I look completely still, and there may be moments of absolute stillness, but of course I still off the monkey mind is often coming in. But it's just through practice that you get better, and that this technique helps you. I know that I've told a few friends about Vipassana. I have 2 friends in particular who did the course after I kind of recommended it to them. And they expressed like so much gratitude to me for telling them about it. And it's the same for me. I have so much gratitude for my friend who told me about it. And, there's a long list of people who to thank, basically. But yeah, I don't think there's a great way you can prepare. I think you just have to go in, and it's gonna, it's gonna be hard. I think one thing though I would say is, introverts, if you're introverted, I think you will actually enjoy it, because I have one, I have one of the friends that I told about Vipassana meditation. She's very introverted, and yeah, she said she could have stayed longer. Whereas I don't know, like I'm not completely on the introverted side. I'm not completely on the extroverted side. But part of me is like, okay, I kind of need after a while to like see some people. But yeah, I would recommend it. Definitely. And I just wanted to finish on a little quote that I um, really like. It's actually not that little, but I think it sums up Vipassana very well. And it's actually from the author Yuval Noah Harari. And another thing about Yuval Noah Harari, he's the author of *Sapiens*. He's an incredible author. He has a great way of thinking and writing. And I've listened to him speak about Vipassana in a few videos. And he said, without having done Vipassana, he would never have been able to write the books that he has written. And I'm aware that he engages in, I think it's 90-day Vipassana courses. And he's really somebody who's interested in the subject, or in the technique rather. But anyway, I think he explains it well when he says, according to Buddhism, the root of suffering is neither the feeling of pain, nor of sadness, nor even of meaningless. Rather, the real root of suffering is this never-ending and pointless pursuit of ephemeral feelings, which causes us to be in a constant state of tension, restlessness, and dissatisfaction. Due to this pursuit, the mind is never satisfied. Even when experiencing pleasure, it's not content, because it fears this feeling might soon disappear and craves that this feeling should stay and intensify. People are liberated from suffering, not when they experience this or that fleeting pleasure, but rather when they understand the impermanent nature of all their feelings and stop craving them. This is the aim of Buddhist meditation practices. In meditation, you are supposed to closely observe your mind and body, witness the ceaseless arising and passing of all your feelings, and realize how pointless it is to pursue them. When the pursuit stops, the mind becomes very relaxed, clear, and satisfied. All kinds of feelings go on arising and passing: joy, anger, boredom, lust. But once you stop craving particular feelings, you can just accept them for what they are. You live in the present moment instead of fantasizing about what might have been. The resulting serenity is so profound that those who spend their lives in the frenzied pursuit of pleasant feelings can hardly imagine it. It's like a man standing for decades on the seashore, embracing certain good waves and trying to prevent them from disintegrating, while simultaneously pushing back bad waves to prevent them from getting near him. Day in, day out, the man stands on the beach, driving himself crazy with this fruitless exercise. Eventually, he sits down on the sand and just allows the waves to come and go as they please. How peaceful. Thank you.